Genesis chapter 11. The whole earth was of one language and of one speech. As they traveled east, they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they lived there. They said to one another, "Come, let's make bricks and burn them thoroughly." They had brick for stone, and they used tar for mortar. They said, "Come, let's build ourselves a city and a tower whose top reaches to the sky, and let's make a name for ourselves, lest we be scattered abroad on the surface of the whole earth." The Lord came down to see the city and the tower which the children of men built. The Lord said, "Behold, they are one people, and they all have one language, and this is what they begin to do. Now nothing will be withheld from them which they intend to do. Come, let's go down and there confuse their language, that they may not understand one another's speech." So the Lord scattered them abroad from there on the surface of all the earth. They stopped building the city. Therefore its name was called Babel, because there the Lord confused the language of all the earth. From there the Lord scattered them abroad on the surface of all the earth. This is the history of the generations of Shem. Shem was 100 years old when he became the father of Arpachshad, 2 years after the flood. Shem lived 500 years after he became the father of Arpachshad, and became the father of more sons and daughters. Arpachshad lived 35 years and became the father of Shelah. Arpachshad lived 403 years after he became the father of Shelah, and became the father of more sons and daughters. Shelah lived 30 years and became the father of Eber. Shelah lived 403 years after he became the father of Eber, and became the father of more sons and daughters. Eber lived 34 years and became the father of Peleg. Eber lived 430 years after he became the father of Peleg, and became the father of more sons and daughters. Peleg lived 30 years and became the father of Reu. Peleg lived 209 years after he became the father of Reu, and became the father of more sons and daughters. Reu lived 32 years and became the father of Serug. Reu lived 207 years after he became the father of Serug, and became the father of more sons and daughters. Serug lived 30 years and became the father of Nahor. Serug lived 200 years after he became the father of Nahor, and became the father of more sons and daughters. Nahor lived 29 years and became the father of Terah. Nahor lived 119 years after he became the father of Terah, and became the father of more sons and daughters. Terah lived 70 years and became the father of Abram, Nahor, and Haran. Now this is the history of the generations of Terah. Terah became the father of Abram, Nahor, and Haran. Haran became the father of Lot. Haran died in the land of his birth in Ur of the Chaldeans, while his father Terah was still alive. Abram and Nahor married wives. The name of Abram's wife was Sarai, and the name of Nahor's wife was Milcah, the daughter of Haran, who was also the father of Iscah. Sarai was barren. She had no child. Terah took Abram his son, Lot the son of Haran his son's son, and Sarai his daughter-in-law, his son Abram's wife. They went from Ur of the Chaldeans to go into the land of Canaan. They came to Haran and lived there. The days of Terah were 205 years. Terah died in Haran. Genesis chapter Key Points. The earth was one language and speech. The people determined to build a city with the tower to the sky and make a name for themselves, lest they be scattered abroad the whole earth. The Lord saw their city and tower and said, "They are one people with one language. Nothing will be withheld from them." He confused their language, and they stopped building the city and were scattered upon the earth. Therefore the name of the city is called Babel, because there the Lord confused the language of all the earth. The generation line from Shem was Arpachshad, Shelah, Eber, Peleg, Reu, Serug, Nahor, Terah, and Abram. Terah became the father of Abram, Nahor, and Haran. Haran was the father of Lot. Abram's wife was Sarai, and she was barren. Terah took his son Abram, along with his wife Sarai, and Lot the son of Haran, and they went into the land of Canaan and lived there. Terah died in Haran. Genesis chapter Ponder this. In one accord, verses 1 through 3 and 6. The whole earth was of one language and of one speech. As they traveled east, they found a plain in the land of Shinar and lived there. They said to one another, "Come, let's make bricks and burn them thoroughly." They had brick for stone, and they used tar for mortar. The Lord said, "Behold, they are one people, and they all have one language." And this is what they began to do. Now nothing will be withheld from them, which they intend to do. The people of this time heard tales of the great flood. They knew the earth had been populated and established before, that great wickedness abounded, and the great God above brought about a flood that killed every living soul, with the exception of a sampling of animals and birds and their forefathers, Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. This generation of people were the grandchildren of the patriarchs who procreated after the flood. So recent was their history of the flood, they allowed fear of a future judgment from God to overcome his command to be fruitful, multiply, and replenish the earth. God intended for the descendants of Noah to come down from the mountains after the flood and spread upon the earth, multiply, and operate in dominion over the earth, as he had intended at the time of the creation of Adam, the first man. And yet, fear of another flood kept the people from spreading upon the earth, despite God's promise in the rainbow to never again destroy the earth with water. Genesis 9. They lacked faith, the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Hebrews 11. Instead of having an unquestioning belief in God's promise, with visual reminders every time they beheld the rainbow, the people allowed anxiety, dread, doubt, and unbelief to control their minds. God stated he has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. 2 Timothy 1. Whereas faith produces peace, maintaining calmness, self-control, and the ability to think clearly. By contrast, fear produces the opposite, inciting the body into flight or fight mode, redistributing the body's energy into combat or retreat, while at the same time diminishing the body's ability to think clearly. The people remained steadfast in their fear and chose not to have faith in God's promise, determining instead to build a tower so great God could not remove them from the earth a second time. There is great power in being in one accord. When the people of the earth all spoke the same language and shared the same intent, they purposed in their hearts to rebel against God. So focused were the people in their unity, purpose, and sedition, the Lord himself stated nothing would be impossible for them. This same strength of mind may steer us in the right direction towards God or the wrong one, operating in wickedness and unrighteousness. The land of Shinar refers to Babylon, the land where they began to build the Tower of Babel, Babylon. In the Bible, Babylon is referred to as a place operating in rebellion and wickedness outside of the will of God, a place of exile, a spirit, a superpower in the end times. Cities likened as women operating in sin, resulting in punishment from God, and the whore of Babylon is associated with the beast in the book of Revelation. Revelation 17. Babylon is not portrayed as a righteous place filled with God-fearing men. It is a place where man is operating in their own wicked, perverse, and mortal delight. Instead of walking with God, building upon the earth after the flood, establishing righteousness on the earth after God's deliverance, the people determined to build a tower to reach the heavens in direct rebellion and opposition to God. The people chose to make the tower out of bricks and tar. It is believed the land of Shinar had no stone with which to construct a tower, and so they chose to build with bricks, a process which involved the molding of clay. They chose tar as a binder, a substance which is more fluid than the solidness of pitch, the substance used in the building of Noah's Ark at God's instruction. Genesis 6. The choice of building materials reveals the people created brick materials and used a more fluid binder to build a symbol of rebellion in the sky, for an event which would never again take place. Spiritually, they created a clay material when God is the potter and we are the clay. Isaiah 64. And used tar as the binding agent for their own creation, as their unity was based on the premise of a fluid ideology. They were their own gods and could circumvent God's direction and operate in unrighteousness instead of the solid, righteous direction from God. The people chose to unite in rebellion and unrighteousness, allowing the spirit of fear to control them instead of acknowledging God, His promise in the rainbow, and His guidance and instruction. The Tower of Babel is an anti-parallel of the day of Pentecost after the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. The disciples of Jesus had just witnessed a great and devastating event, were all in one accord and in one place, for all who believed were together and had all things in common. were filled with the Spirit and spoke with the language all men could hear, spreading the news of the gospel to those who had journeyed to Jerusalem from all lands. Acts 2. Rebellion and God's mercy. Verses 4 and 7 through 9. They said, "Come, let's build ourselves a city and a tower whose top reaches to the sky, and let's make a name for ourselves, lest we be scattered abroad on the surface of the whole earth. Come, let's go down and there confuse their language, that they may not understand one another's speech." So the Lord scattered them abroad from there on the surface of all the earth. They stopped building the city. Therefore its name was called Babel, because there the Lord confused the language of all the earth. From there the Lord scattered them abroad on the surface of all the earth. This generation of people were the grandchildren of the patriarchs who procreated after the flood. God intended for the descendants of Noah to come down from the mountains after the flood and spread out, multiply, and operate in dominion over the earth as He led them in righteousness, beginning anew after having removed the wicked in the flood. And yet the people feared another flood, despite God's promise in the rainbow to never again destroy the earth with water due to the wickedness of man. Genesis 9. Within 3 generations, the people rebelled against God. As the history of the flood was so recent, the people knew to turn away from God would lead to judgment, and so they rationalized their actions by determining to build a tower under their own authority, so high God could not again bring a judgment with the flood. Flavius Josephus, the Jewish historian, wrote, "These first of all descended from the mountains into the plains, and fixed their habitation there, and persuaded others who were greatly afraid of the lower ground on account of the flood, and so were very loath to come down from the high places, to venture to follow their examples. Now the plain in which they first dwelt was called Shinar. God also commanded them to send colonies abroad for the thorough peopling of the earth, that they might not raise seditions amongst themselves, but might cultivate a great part of the earth, and enjoy its fruits after a plentiful manner. But they were so ill instructed that they did not obey God, for which reason they fell into calamities, and were made sensible by experience of what sin they had been guilty of. For when they flourished with the numerous youth, God admonished them again to send out colonies. But they, imagining the prosperity they enjoyed was not derived from the favor of God, but supposing that their own power was the proper cause of the plentiful condition they were in, did not obey Him. Nay, they added to this their disobedience to the divine will, the suspicion that they were therefore ordered to send out separate colonies, that being divided asunder, they might the more easily be oppressed. Now it was Nimrod who excited them to such an affront and contempt of God. He was the grandson of Ham, the son of Noah, a bold man, and of great strength of hand. He persuaded them not to ascribe it to God as if it was through His means that they were happy, but to believe that it was their own courage which procured that happiness. When God saw that they acted so madly, He did not resolve to destroy them utterly, since they were not grown wiser by the destruction of the former sinners. But He caused a tumult amongst them, by producing in them diverse languages, and causing that through the multitude of those languages they should not be able to understand one another. Jewish Antiquities, Book 1, Chapter 4, paragraphs 1 through 3. All God had to do was confuse their language, displaying his sovereignty and might. The people could no longer refuse to be scattered, as it was now necessary to inhabit different locations on the earth, as they were now separated into distinct peoples. They now had to identify who their new people were, gather together, move, establish new settlements, mourn any who were no longer part of their people group, and rebuild. This was a complete destruction of their previous lives, and it affected everyone at the same time. After the confusing of the languages, the people were no longer in one accord in rebellion against their Creator God. Josephus wrote, "After this they were dispersed abroad on account of their languages, and they went out by colonies everywhere. And each colony took possession of that land which they light upon, and into which God led them, so that the whole continent was filled with them, both the inland and the maritime countries." Jewish Antiquities, Book 1, Chapter 5, paragraph 1. God did not destroy the people due to their rebellion. In his mercy, he changed their language, ensuring the people would separate from one another, foregoing their united rebellion. The genealogy of Shem, verses 10 through 11. This is the history of the generations of Shem. Shem was 100 years old when he became the father of Arpachshad, 2 years after the flood. Shem lived 500 years after he became the father of Arpachshad, and became the father of more sons and daughters. After the flood, Noah settled in the area of China, and he begat Shem, who settled in Asia, Ham, who settled in Africa, and Japheth, who settled in Europe. The line of Shem. Shem begat Elam, Asher, Arpachshad, Lud, Aram. Arpachshad begat Shelah. Shelah begat Eber. Eber begat Peleg and Joktan. Peleg begat Reu. Reu begat Serug. Serug begat Nahor. Nahor begat Terah. Terah begat Abram, Nahor, and Haran. Haran begat Lot. Sarai, Milcah, and Iscah, verses 29 through 30. Abram and Nahor married wives. The name of Abram's wife was Sarai, and the name of Nahor's wife was Milcah, the daughter of Haran, who was also the father of Iscah. Sarai was barren, she had no child. Abram and Nahor married wives, and their names are identified as Sarai and Milcah. The Bible is clear Nahor's wife Milcah was his niece, as she was his brother Haran's daughter. Also clearly stated in the scripture is Haran's other daughter named Iscah, followed by the immediate reference to Abram's wife Sarai and her barrenness. While the formation of this sentence structure which identifies the brothers, naming their wives, then interrupting the genealogical flow by skipping over Abram to focus on Nahor and his wife's status as his brother's daughter, then revisiting Abram and his wife Sarai, who was barren, may seem devoid of any additional meaning. It may indicate more than what is read at first glance. The sentence structure may be indicating Iscah was in fact Sarai. Consider reading the scripture as Abram and Nahor married wives. The name of Abram's wife was Sarai, and the name of Nahor's wife was Milcah, the daughter of Haran, who was also the father of Iscah, known as Sarai, who was barren. She had no child. While reading this scripture, substituting the name Iscah with Sarai may seem erroneous at best and an outright lie at worst, there are considerations for its interpretation. The name Iscah is never again mentioned in the Bible, which in and of itself is not unusual, as the genealogical lines noted in the Bible most often referenced only the males, females being included sparingly to identify particular females or to provide context. However, Abram himself, having incurred the name change given by God to Abraham, identifies Sarai, whose name was also changed by God to Sarah, as his sister. When Abraham neared Egypt in his travels, he told Sarah, "See now, I know that you are a beautiful woman to look at. It will happen that when the Egyptians see you, they will say, 'This is his wife.' They will kill me, but they will save you alive. Please say that you are my sister, that it may be well with me for your sake, and that my soul may live because of you." Genesis 12. Once again, Abraham journeyed and settled in Gerar and identified Sarah as his sister. The king of Gerar took Sarah for his own and was warned in a dream by God she was Abraham's wife. The king sent for Abraham and asked why he had lied, to which Abraham responded, "Because I thought surely the fear of God is not in this place. They will kill me for my wife's sake. Besides, she is indeed my sister, the daughter of my father, but not the daughter of my mother, and she became my wife." Genesis 20. One explanation of this identification involves Haran and his children. The sons of Terah were Abram, Nahor, and Haran. Haran had a son named Lot and died in the land of his birth, Ur of the Chaldeans, while his father Terah was still alive. Terah took Lot, Abram, and Sarai his wife with him when he journeyed to the land of Canaan after Haran's death. Terah took responsibility of Lot when Haran died. He may have done the same with Iscah/Sarai, considering them his children. Likewise, Abraham also considered Sarah his sister, though not of his father's blood. Or Terah could have fathered Sarai himself. The Bible does not offer additional details on how Sarah came to be viewed as Abraham's sister. However, Flavius Josephus, the Jewish historian, offers another explanation, as he wrote, "Now Abram had two brethren, Nahor and Haran. Of these, Haran left a son, Lot, as also Sarai and Milcah his daughters, and died among the Chaldeans in a city of the Chaldeans called Ur, and his monument is showed to this day. These married their nieces. Nahor married Milcah, and Abram married Sarai." Book of Jewish Antiquities, Book 1, Chapter 6, Paragraph 5. The longevity of man, verses 31 through 32. Terah took Abram his son, Lot the son of Haran, his son's son, and Sarai his daughter-in-law, his son Abram's wife. They went from Ur of the Chaldeans to go into the land of Canaan. They came to Haran and lived there. The days of Terah were 205 years. Terah died in Haran. Lifespan in years before and after the flood. The earth was filled with wickedness and unrighteousness, and the lifespan of man was a great many years. God determined to bring a flood on the earth to cleanse all unrighteousness, and he decreed the lifespan of man would be reduced. For the Lord said, "My spirit will not strive with man forever, because he is also flesh. So his days will be 120 years." Genesis 6. Noah lived to be 930 years, and his sons who were alive during the time of the flood lived to the previous advanced years, Shem dying at 600 years. Terah lived to be 205 years. The longevity of man steadily decreased until the time of Israel's 12 sons, forming the 12 tribes of Israel. Flavius Josephus, the Jewish historian, wrote, "Terah died and was buried when he had lived to be 205 years old, for the life of man was already by degrees diminished, and became shorter than before, till the birth of Moses, after whom the term of human life was 120 years, God determining it to the length that Moses happened to live." Jewish Antiquities, Book 1, Chapter 6, Paragraph 5. Thus the prophecy God foretold when the days of man would be reduced to 120 years was fulfilled. Lifespan before the flood. Adam lived to be 930 years. Seth, 912. Enosh, 905. Kenan, 910. Mahalalel, 895. Jared, 895. Enoch, 365. Then God took him. Methuselah, 969. Lamech, 777. Noah, 930. Lifespan after the flood. Noah lived to be 930 years. Shem, 600. The genealogy of Shem. Shem begat Elam, Asher, Arpachshad, Lud, and Aram. The genealogy of Arpachshad. Arpachshad lived to be 438 years. Shelah, 433. Eber, 464. Peleg, 239. Reu, 239. Serug, 230. Nahor, 148. Terah, 205. From the genealogy of Terah. Abram, 175. Isaac and Ishmael are from the line of Abram. From the line of Isaac, 180 years. Isaac begat Esau and Jacob. From the line of Jacob, Jacob lived to be 147 years. Jacob, whose name was later changed to Israel by God, begat 12 sons who became the 12 tribes of Israel. Reuben, 112 years. Simeon, 120. Levi, 137. Judah, 129. Dan, 120. Naphtali, 132. Gad, 125. Asher, 123. Issachar, 122. Zebulun, 114. Joseph, 110. And Benjamin, 125. Genesis chapter quiz. Congratulations! You have now completed this chapter. Thank you for watching. What did you find interesting about this chapter? How many questions did you get correct on the quiz? Subscribe to this channel, like this video, and comment down below. Turn on the bell button to get notified of new videos and catch up on past videos. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine on you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face toward you and give you peace.